Manchester United 2, Everton 2, the final game of the American Summer Series tour has come to an end, and United win the Summer Series. You'll never sing that and all that nonsense. But look, guys, we've got some talking points. It wasn't the exciting performance that we were expecting. Obviously, we got a debut from Brian Mbuemo, and there's some pros and cons that we've got to take into consideration here. We've got some talking points, and as always, I want to hear your opinions in the comment section below. Please do smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and let's jump right into it. Now, first up, let's talk about the forward line. And obviously, we had a debut, and it was for Brian Mbuemo. And I thought he played relatively well, I've got to say. Now, you can see that he's maybe a week or two behind everybody else in terms of his fitness levels, in terms of his touches, and so on and so forth. And, you know, there were maybe a couple of little, I suppose, moments within the game where you would expect a small bit more out of him. I remember at one stage Bruno Fernandes was running through, and all he needed was the ball played out in front of him, and Mbuemo was in one-on-one with the goalkeeper. But I suppose the lack of sharpness, the lack of maybe consistency throughout pre-season shows. But look, under no illusions that in another couple of weeks' time he'll be flying fit and ready to go. I thought he played well, however, and you could see the link-up play that we were missing an awful lot last season show through an awful lot. We were discussing before the game what way the team was going to be set up. Obviously, we had Cunha, Mbuemo and Bruno Fernandes as our forward three, and who was going to be the focal point. And it turned out that was Cunha maybe playing through the middle. Bruno was just off the left and Mbuemo was off the right. But they interchanged and they interlinked an awful lot, and I thought it caused Everton an awful lot of trouble when we were going forward. The one-touch passing and the build-up play and the speed of the build-up play between the three players was absolutely fantastic to see. It really was. And again, it's the first time all three of these players have played with each other. So if you're talking about, you know, building on what we seen last night and maybe the enthusiasm and you know the excitement of what we've seen going forward over the next few weeks, it can only get better. Absolutely it can. I was really impressed with it. And look, Mbuemo makes his debut. He was unlucky not to score as well. He had a great opportunity, and it was kind of a pinball where, you know, anything could have happened. But I think he'll be generally happy with his 45 minutes, you know, as a Manchester United debutant, and I think Ruben Amorim is going to be happy with him as well. You know, it's night and day to what we've seen last season. Now, again, we're going to get on to maybe the focal point and what we need to maybe complete that forward line between now and the end of the transfer window later in the video. But I suppose as a first performance, Cunha, Mbuemo and Bruno Fernandes playing together in that forward line, I was very impressed. Now, guys, next up we're going to talk about the midfield, and it's been an area that a lot of us have been speaking about over the past few weeks that we need to strengthen before the end of the transfer window, and hopefully we could get something done in that area. Now, obviously the priority over the next couple of weeks is going to be the striker position, the number 9, and you would hope that Manchester United, if we have the money to spend, could go and maybe get a deal done. There was reports of Hulmand from Sporting Lisbon, and a €40 million bid was rejected. The truth behind that remains to be seen. But look, last night we seen Kobbie Mainoo and Mamadou Ugarte playing the two number 6 roles, and Mainoo was a little bit more advanced of Ugarte. And to be quite honest with you, it didn't work. It didn't work. Now I've got to bring the wing backs into this a little bit. There was times where we were counter-attacked on way too much, and when your two wing backs have both committed to go forward, the spaces that the number 6s were expected to cover, and the ground that they were expected to make up, was a bit unrealistic, to be quite honest with you. And I think Everton took advantage of that, and there was times where, you know, we were it was left, if one of our number 6s went and committed to a tackle and missed it, all of a sudden there's 2-on-2, 3-on-3 against our back three, and it just didn't work. I thought Ugarte had a poor performance. His first touch was off an awful lot, and he missed a couple of tackles. Look, again, I've kind of nailed my colours to the mast with Ugarte. I think he is going to have a good season this year. I'm predicting him to have a good one, but he's got to have better performances than that last night. But the big concern for me is Kobbie Mainoo. The big concern for me is Kobbie Mainoo, and I love Kobbie Mainoo. I really do. And the talent that the kid has is absolutely fantastic. He had an absolutely unbelievable breakthrough season about 18 months ago in the second half of Eric Ten Hag's first season. And he hasn't really kicked on since then. Now, look, I am 100% aware that he's young and there's plenty of time. But I worry for him nailing down a place in Ruben Amram's team last night. The game last night passed him by. It absolutely passed him by. He wasn't involved in the build-up play enough. Defensively, he wasn't getting tackles in. He wasn't covering the ground. His mobility is not the best. He hasn't got the greatest burst of pace, I think is the fair way of saying it. So positionally, his game is quite good. But I just think there's too many games passing him by and he's not impacting enough games. And again, there's high competition now for places in Ruben Amram's side. And especially with one game a week, I think if Ruben Amram finds a starting 11 that he trusts and that does well for him on a consistent basis, I think he will stick with it. I genuinely do think he will do that. And that's why I worry for Kobbie Mainoo. If he doesn't put in some good performances where he can say, look, these are the reasons why I think I should be starting, then I think he could find himself as a bit-part player again this season. I think the talent is there, and I do genuinely think that he is good enough to be part of this Ruben Amram team. And I think the setup and the style of Ruben Amram's football complements Kobbie Mainoo and what he wants and how he plays the game. But he's got to nail down one of them positions. Is he a 6? Is he a 10? I think he's got to make up that decision himself and maybe have a conversation with the manager and say, no, this is where I want to play. This is where I see myself playing, and so on and so forth. And if we do bring in a new number 6, it's only going to create more competition for him. So he's got to he's got to nail down a spot in that team, and he's got to put in a consistent run of games where he's playing well and he's giving the manager, a headache as to whether to start him or not. Now, next up, let's talk about the goalkeeper. And I'm not specifically going to talk about being there too much, but I suppose the position itself. Obviously, Andre Onana is out injured now, and there's talks of him potentially missing the first couple of games of the season with a hamstring injury. It remains to be seen whether he will be back in time or not. But I think it's quite clear that being there is obviously not good enough, and I think we've known that for a long time. But I think specifically, we need to improve that area, and we need competition. We've got competition in certain places now, and we can see it bringing out the best in players. When you see the number 10 role now, obviously been highly contested with Cunha and Mbuemo coming in. The left wing-back position now is highly contested between Diego Leon and Diogo Dalot. Or sorry, not Diogo Dalot, Patrick Dorgu. We've got Dalot and Ahmad on the right. You would hope if we bring in a striker that it creates competition between the strikers that are already here. We've got competition at centre back now with Lisandro Martinez returning, Harry Maguire, De Ligt, Mazraoui is there, who we haven't seen in pre-season either. And I think the goalkeeper needs to have competition as well. Altay Binder is no competition to Andre Onana at the moment. We've heard reports suggesting that we're going to change the goalkeeper. We might bring a new goalkeeper in, whatever the case may be. But I think at the bare minimum, you've got to bring in that competition. You really, really do. Now, look, there's nonsense rumours about Donnarumma coming to Manchester United. I don't believe any of them, to be quite honest with you. I think he would cost too much. He would be on a massive wage packet, and I think it's not the direction Manchester United are looking to go. Now, would I like him? Absolutely, I would. If the finances are right, he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Look, I do think he would be United's number 1 for years and years to come. But I think more realistic with the finances that Manchester United have and maybe the limitations that surround it, I think it's more likely we bring in somebody like a Lamens, for example, to challenge Andre Onana more than anything else. And you can move the likes of Altay Binder on. I worry going into the start of the season about that number 1 position, the goalkeeper position, because I've always said about the goalkeeper, it either emanates confidence or instability throughout your team, especially with the defenders in front of you. And I think if we can improve that position, and look, again, the goalkeeper, you could change the goalkeeper and bring in a new one the day before we play Arsenal. and he goes straight into the team, because it's not a massive, tactical adaptation required going from one team to another. You're playing in the goal, just stop the bloody ball going into the net. But I think specifically with Altay Binder, he is not going to be good enough to start the season for us. So is it going to be Andre Onana going to be back in time, or do we need to go into the market to sign a new goalkeeper? I don't want to take the chance, and I think if the finances are there that we can go out and get somebody like a Lamens who isn't going to break the bank, and you could move Altay Binder on then and recoup some of your money as well, then I think that's absolutely what we should do, because it's all well and good. And look, I made my points clear that I thought the forward line was most important to fix, because, the 5 or 6 mistakes that Andre Onana made in the Premier League last year are minuscule towards the lack of goals we scored at the other end. But nonetheless, if the opportunity is there to upgrade your goalkeeper, or at least bring in some competition, you've got to do it. And finally, guys, let's talk about the pre-season tour in general. Now, the positivity around it is absolutely night and day in comparison to previous years. And a lot of the credit has to go to Ruben Amorim, it's got to be said. The standards that he's implemented within the squad now, and just the general good feeling around the squad, and players seem to be happy and they're fighting for one another. Now, look, there's a lot of work to be done, and we are by no means the finished article, and you hope that we can add to the squad before the end of the transfer window. But in terms of a pre-season tour, it's been absolutely fantastic in my opinion, from what I've been reading and from what I've been seeing. The results have been positive. Unbeaten, obviously, on the tour, and some good performances put in. The standards have been set now, and the high bar has been set by Ruben Amorim. He spoke obviously in depth throughout last season, saying he needed a pre-season to embed his ideas and embed his plans and so on and so forth. And we're seeing an awful lot of double sessions. You see, last night after the game, the team were out and doing a training session after the game finished, and it was nearly an hour before. It was nearly an hour after the game before the players left the pitch. They'd done a session straight away after it, so they are being put through their paces. They look miles more conditioned and fitter than we've seen in previous years. They really, really do. Now, you can be as fit as you want, I don't care what anybody says. If you make mistakes and you don't stick to your position, you don't stick to a game plan, fitness is only going to get you so far. You've got to be able to implement the ideas of the manager and stick to a game plan. But I think in general, what Ruben Amorim has done has been has been really, really good in this pre-season. It really, really has. Now, you've got to talk as well about the atmosphere around the dressing room and the squad, and like we're seeing clips in training of players really enjoying themselves and smiles on their faces again. And when you look at and just think back, and nobody wants to, but think back to the negativity of a couple of months ago at the end of a horrendous season, losing to Spurs. When you're seeing players and the squad look so together over the last couple of weeks on the tour, it's been absolutely fantastic. Now, we've got to add to it, and we've got to build on it, and we can't rest on our laurels. We've had, 2 very good players come in and sign in Mbuemo and Cunha. We need more. We really, really do need more. And the captain of the club, Bruno Fernandes, has been speaking about it as well. He says, I don't want to take a dig at anyone, but the club is doing the best they can in terms of the financial situation they talk about. But it's crystal clear we needed more competition for the players that were here, more quality to get everyone to step up a little bit more. And I think that is what the club are trying to do. Hopefully, we can get 1 or 2 more players to help with that. And he's dead right. He is absolutely dead right. And look, this is not a dig at Ineos or whoever's running behind the scenes, because they are absolutely trying to improve the squad. The finances are what they are, and we know that they are going to limit us in certain parts and who we can realistically go out and get. But if we can add a striker and a centre midfielder before the end of the transfer window, I think it will be a very, very good transfer window for us. The striker is paramount for me and for everybody. We've got to get goals into the team. Is it going to be Benjamin Sesko? Is it going to be Ollie Watkins? It looks like it's going to be Sesko, but we'll get into that on the transfer show tonight, guys. But look, I mean, in terms of a pre-season tour, it's been very, very positive, and we see it out winning the summer series, and first piece of silverware that was available to us this season, we've won. Let's hope we win every other piece that we are in for this season. Wouldn't that be something else? Because it mean we'd win, 21 would be here, but I don't think that's going to happen. But guys, nonetheless, very, very happy with how it went. And thanks to everybody for watching as well over the pre-season tour. Please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll be back tonight with the Transfer Talk Show at 9 p.m. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Hope you have a great Monday. I'll speak to you then. Take care.